All right, so picking up from where I last left off, I was talking about what makes the music and makes the musician great and makes the music great, which means what makes it great is what made the musician great, their components, their experiences, what they have to say uniquely, their uniqueness of their soul, their unique truth that they personally view and is from their perception, that nobody else sees it in exactly the other way, and anybody who does, they wouldn't express it exactly the same because they have a different experience. Even though it's the same kind of experience, it's two different people. And so the doctor gave my guitarist whatever drugs he asked for and wouldn't give me any, and it was really horrible. And he kept taking it, and he kept giving it to him because he was clean-cut looking. Doctor's prejudice is like robbed me 10 years of my career. I'm going to have them all criminally charged. I have a dead guitarist and this asshole doctor to thank for giving him whatever he wanted that turned him into a drug addict. And sometime after, he became a raving drug addict, and then, a couple of years, he died after that. And it's really horrible, and it's not cool, and I don't think drugs are cool, and yeah, I used to smoke weed. I probably will again because I miss it, but making music has nothing to do with that. And that doesn't make you great. That fucks it up. And that's what I've been saying. Anyway, so I want to play his guitar solo. I wrote this piece and wrote an actual part, and what he did was he interpreted it, and instead of starting where I wanted him to start with, the part that I wrote, and then add his own and go from there, he starts off with his own, goes into it in the middle, and then goes somewhere else. And this guy was amazing. He was like Yngwie Malmsteen. At the end of the solo, it's a solo guitar piece, like Eddie Van Halen's little guitars. Well, we have haunted guitars, because we're the living dead. And anyway, so by the time he's at the end of the solo and the end of the piece, right, he's playing so fast it almost sounds like one blur, almost like one note or a bunch of notes, or like a vibrating over and over, like, I mean, it's unbelievable. And, it's the greatest loss of a guitarist in modern music that the world will never know. Or they'll know someday, but for now and in his time, they didn't know, and it's just really sad. Well, anyway, this is Haunted Guitars with Mike Lepore on guitar. And he's one of the greatest guitarists I've ever worked with and seen. And he definitely would have gone down as one of the guitar greats. The Living Dead, Haunted Guitars. Wow, we were really stoned that day. Usually I never say anything in the beginning. Here we go. Mike Lepore, Haunted Guitars. Yeah, in the middle section, it sounds like a classical piece. That's what I wrote, in the part just before it. He wrote the intro and all the solo parts as it builds up at the end. And watching him do this was amazing. And I'm going to miss you so much, Mike. I don't want to get too upset and tear-eyed, but because I could, but he was a good guy. Rough guy, could get himself into trouble and stuff sometimes, but he was always trying to avoid trouble. When I met him and we were working together, he's like, yeah, I got, arrested once and did some stupid stuff. I'm like, okay, that's cool, so just don't do it again, man. We're grown up. I'm like, you're 22 or 21. I'm 25. We don't have time for this. I think I was 26. And I was saying, like, we got to play music, man. We can't have any afford trouble. I'm like, it's grown-up time, luckily you were young enough. It's still when you were young and, you made a mistake once, and big deal. And, so he was always a very kind of together and level-headed guy that helped inspire him. But what's sad was losing Mike, and such a great talent on guitar. The world never knew in his time. And maybe I'll do another clip later, but I think I'm going to end here because, it's a little hard to talk about. He was my good friend, and he was a great guitarist. Like, we connected, kind of like Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, but we weren't like that. We weren't that rough around the edges, but, like Ozzy Osbourne and Randy Rhoads, Robert Plant and Jimmy Page. We had a connection like that, and it showed this day when we did that song. That was great. It's just too bad. This guy could play circles around everything. It was amazing. Like, I wish he was here. I got somebody in mind, and I sent him some of the music, and they thought it was great, and we're all up for it. Oh, and it'll work out great because he's a professional. He'll be like, I know what you want. You got these parts. Yeah, I could do this kind of solo. Here's 10 solos. Tell me which one you like best and what you're going for. And he's very pro. So it'll be an easy transition to breaking him in as a lead guitarist. Losing him and all this has not been an easy transition. And right around that time, I lost my little brother. I mean, it's been rough. But, yeah. We've always had like 6 million fans following me around and following the band and liking the music. And I don't think anybody's gone anywhere or really forgotten it all. And as soon as I see a clip of me playing live with a bunch of other guys and doing it, and like the guys I play with, they're pro, they can do whatever I put on tape. But when that's happening, yeah, it'll be the same old thing. People come screaming out of the woodwork. Whenever we used to play, people would come screaming out of the woodwork like, yo, this band's like, they're better than Guns N' Roses. They're better than so many bands. They're like the old greats. And that's what I thought of Guns N' Roses. They were like the old greats. But like from what people would tell me, that's some great flattery. I work hard to make my music very good. Good enough. And that's how I always thought of myself. A master with poetry and the ideas behind it and the visual aspects put together and going into production. The overall sound. But as far as my music being that great and me being that great, I think I'm good enough. And that's how it's always been. And actually, I always give my a hard time saying whatever I do just really isn't that great and could have been greater. And like, I got to keep striving. No matter how many people get moved by it and whatever happens, I always kept it that way. And it keeps everything fresh. It gives everything a healthy perspective. Anything but stopping. I'm getting ready to go back at it in high gear after I finish up the lawsuits and the court cases and stuff, and I go back to Europe. I was going to get a place in California. I'm going to have to. I'm probably going to get it in Beverly Hills or up in Bel Air, far away from the city itself, and nowhere near Malibu because of the fires and everything. That was really affecting my breathing and my lungs. Like, I've had a lot of problems with breathing, and it's not because of smoking, even though some of the doctors say that. It's from being exposed to black mold. Living with a bass player who had a dog for the longest time, and I'd be coughing up blood because I'm deathly allergic to animals, especially dogs, especially a yellow lab. And then recently I went through that again after my brother died. I took his dog and looked after him and stuff. And he died 6 months ago, and it was heartbreaking. And he was like Scooby-Doo. He was the sweetest pup, And, anybody who's a dog lover could really understand that and relate to it. It's like losing a person. It's like losing your little nephew or something. It was really hard. But, on the good note,